The siren started 3 minutes after the sky changed color. I was in the lower market, arguing with a vendor about whether dried kelp counted as food or a prank, when the light outside the glass canopy went from afternoon gold to the bruised purple of a healing wound. People noticed before the alarms did. Conversations faltered. A child began to cry. Someone dropped a crate of ceramic filters, and they shattered like thin ice. Then the city's warning system found its voice. Evacuate to nearest hardened shelter. Repeat. Evacuate. I didn't think. I ran. The lower market emptied into the transit corridors, and the corridors became rivers of bodies flowing in one direction. Above us, something thundered. Too slow for aircraft, too heavy for storms. The air vibrated in a way you felt in your teeth. I had memorized the shelter map years ago, back when it was still a civic exercise instead of a prayer. The nearest hardened shelter was Facility Theta 9, an old research bunker repurposed for civilian use. It was meant to hold 200 people. Judging by the panic in the corridors, it would hold far fewer than that by the time the door sealed. I pushed. I ducked. I apologized to no one and everyone. Somewhere behind me, something boomed, and the lights flickered like they were considering giving up. The entrance to Theta 9 was already open when I got there, a thick concrete throat swallowing people whole. 2 wardens in gray suits were shouting instructions, trying to keep order that had already evaporated. Single file. No bags. Keep moving. I slipped inside just as the first shockwave hit. The floor jumped under my feet. Dust rained from the ceiling like dry snow. Someone screamed. The corridor bent downward, then opened into the main chamber. It was a cylinder of reinforced steel and old paint, lined with benches and emergency lockers. Half the lights were already red, the other half a sickly white. People crowded in, breathing hard, eyes wide, clutching children, clutching nothing. A warden slammed a hand against the wall console. Doors in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That was nothing. And it was everything. I looked back at the entrance. The outer blast doors were still open, but the inner iris was already sliding into position, its segmented metal petals beginning to close. Beyond it, the corridor was chaos. People still running, some stumbling, some being carried. And then I saw her. She was running alone. That's what stood out first. In a flood of people, she was a singular, focused line cutting through the mess like she knew exactly where she was going. Dark jacket, dust in her hair, a cut on her cheek that was bleeding freely. She wasn't looking at anyone. She was looking at the door. At me, though I didn't realize that until later. She crossed the threshold just as the iris began to seal. I thought she was another refugee, another survivor. I was wrong. The warden shouted, "Get back," and someone near the console hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. She reached the control panel before they did. "I can help seal it," she said, breathless, already moving her hands across the interface like she owned it. The manual override is lagging. If the pressure wave hits before full lock, you'll lose the hinge integrity. That sounded official enough, smart enough, urgent enough. The warden let her. I should have said something. I don't know what. I don't even know why I hesitated. Maybe it was the way she didn't look scared. Maybe it was the way she stood between us and the door like she was guarding it. The iris closed. The outer blast door followed, slamming shut with a final, echoing boom that vibrated through the shelter's bones. For a moment, there was only heavy breathing and the low hum of the life support systems spinning up. Then someone asked, "What about the others?" No one answered. The woman stepped back from the console. She wiped her bloody cheek with the back of her hand and looked around the room. Her eyes were sharp. Too sharp. "Doors sealed," she said. "You're safe. For now." For now, someone repeated. She didn't respond. The wardens exchanged looks. One of them, a tall man with a shaved head, said, "Thanks for the assist. What's your name?" She hesitated, just long enough to be noticeable. "Lena," she said. It was a lie. I knew at the moment she said it. I don't know how. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way she said it, like she was trying on a coat that didn't quite fit. The shelter systems finished cycling. Air filters whined. The lights steadied. Outside, the world ended. We felt it more than we heard it. A deep, rolling impact that traveled through the ground and into our chests. Someone sobbed. Someone prayed. Someone laughed hysterically and then stopped. For the first hour, no one talked much. We sat. We waited. We listened to the shelter sensors report things we didn't want to understand. Atmospheric contamination, surface temperatures, radiation spikes. Words that meant the same thing in every language. Don't go out there. I watched Lena. She moved like someone used to being in places she wasn't supposed to be. She checked corners. She studied people. She avoided standing with her back to anyone. And she kept glancing at the sealed door like she was counting heartbeats. Eventually, the wardens started organizing. They took a head count. 47 of us. Too many for comfort. Too few for the city we'd left behind. They started rationing water, assigning sleep rotations, turning panic into procedures. That's when the shelter's internal sensors tripped an alert. Unauthorized system access detected. The message blinked red on the main display. Everyone looked at the wardens. They looked at the console. Then they looked at her. She raised her hand slowly. "Not me," she said. Another alert followed. "Core protocol, override pending." "What does that mean?" someone asked. The tall warden swallowed. "It means something is trying to take control of the shelter's core systems." "Something?" I asked. "Or someone?" All eyes went back to her. She met our stares calmly. Too calmly. "If I wanted control, you'd already be locked out of life support," she said. "Whatever this is, it started after we sealed the door." "Convenient," someone muttered. The console chimed again. "Override in 10 minutes." Panic came back like it had been waiting in the hallway. The wardens tried to access the system. Their commands bounced. Their credentials were denied. "Who are you?" the tall one asked her. She looked at the countdown, then at us. "Someone who made a mistake," she said, and then tried to outrun it. That wasn't an answer. "Talk," he said. She sighed, like she'd been hoping she wouldn't have to. "My real name doesn't matter. What matters is that I worked for the people who built what's out there now." Silence swallowed the room. "You mean that the things in the sky?" someone whispered. "Yes," she said. "The impactors. The planetary correction system. Whatever name marketing settled on before everything went wrong." "You helped build them," the tall warden said, his voice going flat. "I helped build their guidance core," she replied. "The part that decides where they land." "And now they're landing on cities," someone said. "Because the system was activated without the final constraints," she said. "Because someone panicked. Or because someone decided the world needed to be reset." The countdown ticked to 9 minutes. "And this?" I asked. "This override?" She looked at me. Really looked at me. "That's the guidance core looking for me." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "Why?" "Because I'm the only one who can shut it down." The tall warden laughed, a short, sharp sound. "That's a hell of a story." "I know," she said. "I wish it wasn't true." "Then why seal the door?" someone shouted. "Why trap us in here with you?" Her jaw tightened. "Because if it gets access to external systems through the shelter, it can use the emergency transmitters to reseed its targets. And this facility has one of the strongest uplinks in the region." Understanding spread like a slow, ugly stain. You're saying, I said, that it followed you here? Yes. And if it takes over, the tall warden said, it can tell the rest of those things where to hit next. Yes. The countdown hit 8 minutes. So open the door and leave, someone said. Take it with you. She shook her head. It's not that simple. The moment the door opens, it gets a direct hardware path. Right now it's fighting through layers of isolation. It won't win in 10 minutes, but it doesn't have to. Then what? I asked. She met my eyes again. Then I go to the core access node and physically sever the guidance interface. Where is that? The tall warden asked. She pointed at the sealed door behind us. On the other side. A murmur rippled through the room. Fear. Anger. Desperation. You said it yourself, someone snapped. Outside is death. Not immediate, she said. The first wave passed. Radiation levels are high, but survivable with a suit. The bigger problem is what's still in the sky. The countdown hit 7 minutes. I'll go with you, I said, before I'd fully decided to. Everyone turned to look at me. The tall warden frowned. You're not trained. Neither are half the people who keep this place running, I said. And she's not dragging that core cable by herself. The woman, Lena, or whatever her name was, studied me like she was recalculating something. You don't have to do that. I know, I said. But if you're lying, we're all dead anyway. And if you're not, we still might be. She nodded once. Fair. The tall warden swore under his breath. Then he nodded too. 2 minutes to suit up. If you're doing this, you're doing it now. The shelter had emergency suits. Old, bulky things that smelled like rubber and dust. We fumbled into them while the countdown glowed accusingly on the wall. 5 minutes. The airlock was small. Too small for comfort. The outer door loomed like a promise no one wanted. She stood across from me, helmet under her arm. I'm sorry, she said. For sealing the door? I asked. For making you part of this, she said. I didn't plan for anyone else to get involved. I shrugged or tried to. The suit made it awkward. No one ever does. The warden's voice crackled over the comm. You've got 3 minutes before the system hits critical override. We locked our helmets. The world became breathing and heartbeats and the quiet hum of recycled air. The inner door closed. The chamber pressurized, then depressurized. Warning lights flashed. The outer door opened. The city was gone. Not gone like erased. Gone like broken. Buildings lay on their sides. Others had simply stopped existing, replaced by glassed craters that still glowed faintly. The sky was a dirty, swirling bruise, streaked with distant fire. And in the distance, hanging like slow, patient gods, were the impactors. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. We ran. The guidance node was in a maintenance annex attached to the shelter's exterior, a relic from when Theta 9 was a research facility instead of a bunker. The access panel was half buried under debris. It took both of us to clear it. Inside, the air was dead and cold. Cables ran like veins along the walls, all of them humming with a power that felt wrong. There, she said, pointing to a thick, shielded conduit. That's the interface. Cut that, and the core loses its local access. And then what? I asked. Then the shelter is safe, she said. And I become very, very visible to everything up there. The sky rumbled, like it was clearing its throat. I didn't like the sound of that. We reached the conduit. She pulled a cutting tool from her suit. Her hands were steady. Mine weren't. Why you? I asked. Why does it need you? Because I taught it to think like me, she said. And I taught it to look for me when things went wrong. That seems unwise. She almost smiled. In hindsight, The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Do it," I said. She cut. The conduit sparked, then went dark. The hum faded. The lights in the annex flickered and died. For a moment, there was only the sound of our breathing. "Is that it?" I asked. "For them," she said. "Yes." "For you?" I asked. She looked up. One of the impactors was moving. Not falling. Adjusting. Turning slowly, deliberately, like an eye finding focus. "It knows," she said. The comm crackled. The warden's voice came through, strained but clear. "Override aborted. You did it. Get back here now." She shook her head. "Open the door for him," she said. "What?" I said. "What about you?" "If I go back inside, it follows," she said. "If I stay out here, it stays interested in me." "That's not a plan," I said. "That's a sacrifice." She met my eyes through the helmet glass. "I told you. I made a mistake. This is me fixing it." The impactors in the sky shifted, one by one, like a school of metallic fish changing direction. "You can't just," I started. "I already sealed the door once," she said softly. "This time, I'm making sure it stays closed." She tapped her comm warden. "Open for him. Then seal it. No matter what." There was a pause. Then, quietly, understood. The shelter door began to cycle. "I don't even know your real name," I said. She hesitated. "Then, Mara." The door opened. She stepped back. I didn't want to leave. Every part of me screamed against it. But the suit's warning lights were blinking. Radiation levels were climbing. "I'm sorry," I said, and hated how small it sounded. "Don't be," she said. "Make it mean something." I ran. The door closed behind me. Through the thick glass, I saw her turn toward the broken city and the waiting sky. The shelter sealed. The impactors changed course. Days passed. Then weeks. We listened to the sky. We watched the sensors. The strike slowed. Then stopped. The world outside was still ruined. But it was no longer being erased. They never found her. Sometimes, when the shelter was quiet, I'd stand by the door and think about the moment she sealed it the first time. And the moment she made sure it would never need to open for her again. The shelter stayed sealed for 6 days after Mara stayed behind. 6 days of watching the sensors. 6 days of rationed water and recycled air. 6 days of people whispering her name like it might somehow reach the sky. At first, the impactors moved constantly, slow, deliberate shifts across the clouds, like predators deciding whether to finish a wounded animal. Every time one adjusted its course, the entire shelter went silent. Parents pulled children closer. The wardens hovered over the consoles like priests over a dying patient. Then, on the 7th day, something changed. The orbital feeds, grainy, half-blind from damaged satellites, showed the machines drifting. Not aligning, not targeting, drifting. One by one, their heat signatures dimmed. No one cheered at first. We'd learned not to trust good news. We waited for the counterstrike, the correction, the sudden rain of fire that would prove we'd only delayed the inevitable. It never came. By the 10th day, the guidance network was silent. By the 14th, the sky was empty. They held a vote before reopening the shelter. Not everyone wanted to know what the world looked like now. Not everyone wanted proof of what it had cost. When the doors finally unsealed, the air that rushed and smelled like ash and rain and something faintly metallic, like a storm had passed and forgotten to take its anger with it. The city was a skeleton of itself, but it was still standing. We built markers for the dead, where we could, for the missing where we couldn't, for the ones who had chosen not to come back inside. Mara didn't get a grave. There was nothing left to bury, but the wardens added her name, her real name, to the shelter's wall of record, etched into the steel where it would outlast all of us. Mara Cade, systems architect, cause of death, stayed behind. They offered to list me as a witness, as a hero, as anything that would make the story cleaner. I told them no. Months later, we started rebuilding. Slowly, carefully, like people who knew the sky could still change its mind. Sometimes, at night, I'd climb to the highest intact roof and look up at the stars. I'd think about how she once told me she taught the system to think like her, and how, in the end, she taught it something else instead. Not how to choose targets, but how to stop choosing at all. We never saw the impactors again. And every time I walked past the shelter door, I remembered the sound it made when it sealed, and the person who made sure it was the last door the world ever needed to close.